What is up, everybody? Happy post Thanksgiving. This is like officially a road game here, as I am what looks like held captive in Rockland, Massachusetts. Pete, what's going on, man?
Not too much. It recovering from yesterday, just updated all my numbers and stuff, and some interesting stuff in the TOC marketplace here. And I think for strategy discussion, the fact that we didn't have, like last week with the Patriots, it was just such a weird spot. Whereas this week it's a little more ambiguous on kind of how to play it, I think.
Yeah, and was seeing multiple players have like similar scores, like high scores, but similar scores, and not like running away with it, right? Where the Dallas quarterback and the Buffalo quarterback are like semi close, the tight ends were semi close. So we had like a lot of good scores, but no like home runs yet.
Yeah. I mean, and when you look at, and we can talk about it in a bit too, when you look at projections, a lot of scores from yesterday outpace kind of the typical median projections you'll see. So Buffalo QB 36.7, generally the high end quarterbacks projecting around 30 points. Running back stayed in check. I mean, Las Vegas had 20.2, and there's, 4 or 5 other cores ahead of them. But Las Vegas wide receiver, which I think is the most interesting of the bunch at 37. My take is I think that number will probably get beat, but it's probably a lock for top 3 or top 4 wide receiver score. And I just had a flashback because I think we were DMing like a week or two ago, and you're like, Vegas wide receivers have been better than tight end. And I was like, yeah, but I just kind of worry about their ceiling and stuff.
Yeah.
And then here they go. How Las Vegas tight end had what? 3.6.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
just disgusting.
But didn't they? I thought Moreau caught a touchdown. Did he not?
I mean, I'm looking at the scores here, and I can pull this up that they sent over here for and I'm seeing 3.6 for.
Wow.
But you're right. Did Moreau have a touchdown?
I thought he did. I wonder if is Moreau considered a wide receiver? I don't know.
He shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Here's the I just pulled up the graphic for yesterday's recap.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, so it does say 3.6 for Vegas tight end. I can zoom in here a little bit, but that is weird. Justin, I think I saw Justin in the chat. Do you know about that?
Yeah. Oh, they're saying he had a TD on Sunday.
Oh,
that
okay.
was last week, not yesterday.
See, this is I was eating dinner during this game, so I'm relying on you here for the information.
And I confidently thought Moreau scored one. So all right, Justin's letting us know. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for coming for like solid information.
Yeah. That's why we have this graphic here, so we don't have to actually tally up the scores in our head.
Well, I love that we got the graphic and we were still like, yeah, but I think the graphic's wrong. I think the people that spent time and energy on this might have gotten it wrong.
I mean, I think obviously that Chicago-Detroit game didn't yield much. I mean, I think Detroit is basically unplayable in like most formats. Like they're not good for main event and they're not good for low ball either.
Right.
And then
right.
Chicago tight end is interesting. 15.9 is a pretty good tight end score. Are you lagging on me, Mike?
Yeah, I think I was breaking up a little bit. Again, I apologize. We're in the woods right now. Can you hear me okay, right? You can still hear me.
I got you back now. Yeah, I was just saying I think Chicago tight end is going to be a pretty good play. Again, one of those spots where I'm sure there'll be like 1 or 2 more. Obviously, Buffalo tight end outscored them. But I would guess that Chicago tight end's a top, 5 on the week as well.
What can you scroll down to the Buffalo tight end again too? Because Dallas tight end outscored.
Oh,
Buffalo,
sorry,
right?
Dallas tight end outscored 19.6. Buffalo tight end 15.2.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at the projections for the other top tight ends on the slate, Miami tight end 10.9 for projection, San Francisco tight end 10.8. So Buffalo, Chicago, and Dallas all outpacing kind of median projections for those other. And I think, warrant, consideration in the main event because all 3 of those were pretty good scores. Let's see here. Yeah. Mike's glitching on me again. All right, there goes Mike. I can hold down the fort here. The the New Orleans game didn't have much in the way for main event, but New Orleans running back definitely going to be in play for low ball at 3.7. Rest in peace, Tony Jones. The Buffalo stuff is interesting. Josh Allen at 36.7. Again, probably a lock to be like a top 3 scorer, but I don't think it's necessarily a lock to be the best overall score. But that 15.2 from tight end, I think, is solid. I think what's kind of hard to know too is what to do with a Bills wide receiver. I'm probably not going to be using Bills wide receiver in main event just because I'm pretty concerned that that upside is capped at 25.5. Las Vegas wide receiver. They were one of the best deals in the marketplace. When I looked earlier, I actually bought one. I can see what they're at right now. Crap. Am I going to be able to share my screen with Mike not here? I don't think I'm going to be able to share my screen. I just removed that and now I won't be able to do it. But I can show you guys here. The Las Vegas wide receiver, there's a bunch of these. I bought one for $75. There's one at $77, $79, $81. When I was comparing scores to pricing, they were kind of head and shoulders the best buy in the marketplace, because I think at 37.3, it's pretty likely that they're in the optimal or near optimal. And compared to some of these other weeks when we've seen, New England DST, we knew they were going to be a lock for the optimal last week, and they were trading at what, like $200+ in the marketplace. So to me, that seems like a really good buy right now. And the thing I was kind of thinking through from a strategy standpoint is, because we had enough good scores in the Thursday slate, I think some people will be tempted to roll out almost like a Thursday optimal, just because it's going to project well. So you toss out Buffalo QB, you roll out Las Vegas running back, you roll out Las Vegas wide receiver, Dallas tight end, or Chicago Buffalo tight end, and then even Buffalo DST, Dallas DST, Chicago DST, all of those scores were solid. And so to me, I want to be very, mindful of which kind of combos I'm using and making sure I'm giving myself enough upside there and not being duplicated. So I think kind of the way I'm playing it is in my main event lineups, I'm going to use, I'm going to have Buffalo QB and Las Vegas wide receiver in one, but then I'm probably not going to use Las Vegas running back. I'm not going to use Chicago tight end, because I'm going to, try to give myself a chance to be unique and take some stabs at plays that I think have more upside than that. So, Mike, I was just tossing out my theory that people might feel kind of comfortable rolling out Thursday optimals just because they look good, but that you might actually be limiting your first place main event equity if you do that.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask, because do we think, right, where New England last week, I think you needed New England in order to come in top 10 in the main event.
Yeah.
But do we think any of those are must have? Securing almost 20 points from your tight end is really nice, but do you need Josh Allen this week? Do we think quarterbacks, there are plays that can outpace what Allen did?
Yeah, I think we can definitely see, if we're looking at the other quarterbacks, Baltimore QB, Tampa Bay QB, Philadelphia QB, and Chargers QB, I think those 4 could all rival Buffalo QB, but they're probably all individually dogs, right? To score more than 36.7. But collectively, I would say they're a favorite to have one outscore Buffalo QB. So it's tough. Las Vegas wide receiver is, I would say Buffalo QB and Las Vegas wide receiver are comparable as a lock to be a top 3, but probably a dog to be the top overall score.
So say you have the Joker wide receiver right here, or the Joker quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Are you using that on on a Buffalo quarterback or on a Las Vegas wide receiver, or are you more apt to trying to lap them with a more unique play?
I think it would be contextual to what my other cards were.
Okay.
I think a good example would be, if you did have, a Las Vegas wide receiver, or say you had, another stack you liked. Let's say if you had, Tampa Bay QB and Indianapolis running back, which I think are both obviously really good plays this week. You get that in-game correlation.
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe use my joker on, Las Vegas wide receiver and then try to play like Tampa Bay tight end instead. I know
I like
normally
that.
you'd maybe use your joker to get the wide receiver stack, but it's like locking it up and then shifting those points elsewhere. But I don't love necessarily using, I guess, like you said, it depends what position your joker's at.
Right.
But I think you can get creative this week. I don't think you're locked into having to play it that way.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too. We saw, how many points did Rodgers put up last week? Like 40 something, I think.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Hurts got over 30 last week. Like there's definitely, it's a nice score. It's a nice score to be able to like secure those points from Josh Allen. The Raiders, I feel a little bit more excited about grabbing those points versus I feel like there are plenty of options at quarterback that can surpass that.
And just to give people, to kind of help people escape the mentality of like, oh my God, you have to have this card to win. So 3 of the top 5 teams in the main event last week had Green Bay quarterback 41.4, but 5th place Pit Monkey. And I can share this screen here just so people can see this leaderboard from last week. They had Tampa Bay QB at 25 points. Wow. Which isn't, why can't I
think we should scroll down a little bit more.
Here we go.
We might see some familiar faces.
It's actually just cutting off there. I don't know really kind of what to do. What place did you finish?
I can't remember. I got top 20 or something like that. I don't know.
But I was just saying here, you see the correlation. They got there because of they had the defense and running back combination you needed, but because some of these other teams didn't have that, obviously first place had the nuts essentially, right. But you saw, third place gave up a decent amount of points at running back because they didn't have Indianapolis running back. So I think there are definitely paths to making up points in other spots. And that's why I'm kind of thinking about it through a mixing and match with the Thursday top plays as opposed to just like trying to roll out the optimal because you feel comfy with having those points in the bank.
Yeah,
Eagle Putt.
I think that makes sense. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My internet sucks so bad, so I apologize, guys. But we talked about this last week. I expected to see that defense be like Patriots all the way down. And so to see some lineups have, like, I forget who's the 49ers there with 14 points and then the Dolphins with 9.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where too, we see so much. The reason it's hard not to use, if we want to talk about, most likely to be in the optimal, it's probably Dallas tight end. You can see the tight end points here, like a 20-point score from tight end is really, really good. The problem is, and I was looking in the marketplace, is Dallas tight end is super expensive. And to give you guys kind of an example on perhaps like an arbitrage thing you could do here. So Dallas tight end scored 19.6. Low ask when I pulled this earlier was $108. Chicago tight end scored 15.9 points. So, just a little less than 4 points. They're $32.80. And so it's like you could save yourself, $70 in the marketplace and you're only sacrificing 4 points and you can probably make that up elsewhere. So to me, I'm not buying Dallas tight end at this price, but I would happily, buy Chicago tight end. The Eagle Putt
that makes
here.
Sense. For you can make up 4 points elsewhere.
Yeah. And especially at defense too. I think that's one of the nice things is not having a defense that just fully separated this week is going to kind of help shake up the strategy. I think Mike might hop in on his phone here, but I saw a question from Eagle Putt. Who do we think are the RB options, just like how you gave us 4 QB options? Yeah. So looking at projections, the top 4 backfields that I'm seeing are Indianapolis, New England running back, Cleveland running back, and Washington running back. Surprisingly, that one kind of caught my eye. And then right underneath them would be Las Vegas running back coming in at 20.2 points. So just to give you an idea, Las Vegas banked 20.2 points yesterday. And the projections I have for Indiana, 22.6 points, New England, 21.5, Cleveland, 21.4, Washington, 20.3. So unlike, wide receiver with Las Vegas and quarterback with Buffalo, where they pulled away from the median projections by about 6 or 7 points, which is pretty significant. The running backs, we didn't see any separation. So I'm less inclined to use, if I had like New England running back, Cleveland running back, Washington running back, I'm probably rolling the dice. Even San Francisco running back, I'm rolling the dice that they'll outscore Las Vegas. But I also don't think Las Vegas is necessarily a team you have to shy away from in the main event, just because we don't have any like just incredible running back rooms right now.
I'm back. We're on the phone now. Let's try this out.
Yeah. Yeah, the phone actually looks much better for you. Ryan says Dallas RB beat LVRB. That's not true. LV running back 20.2, Dallas running back 17.
So, is he counting the special team? Is that what that they Pollard out? I don't think it, because that just goes to defense, not the running back. Or
yeah, Pollard didn't get that. He didn't get it in a bunch of my leagues either, which was frustrating to me.
Pretty tilting.
Yeah, we could pull up this. I'll share this screen again. We can look at the scores from yesterday as well. Again here.
I think I gotta log into one other thing so I can allow you to share
screen. Oh, okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, I'll be able to do it. I'm just not gonna come on. I apologize, everybody. Usually this is, I'm not at the fortress right now.
Well, Ryan's saying they're missing Pollard return D, so Dallas RB got like 23. I mean, wouldn't that count toward DST? It counts for running back and DST. TOC crew confirmed it will probably be a late adjustment. Okay, that's a bombshell then. If you're getting an extra 7 points there, and you get the double dip with the defense getting it as well.
Wow. So so that would give it how many points? Did you say 20, 23? Roughly?
Yeah, because they were at Dallas scored what, 17.7? You're going to add another 7 to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that means we're looking at, so many cards are going to be played from Thursday.
Exactly. And that's why I think there is Coop saying, yes, we'll need to adjust this. Stat provider challenges with the scoring input feed we get. All right.
Wow.
So
Coop.
now Dallas is definitely in the conversation there. I'm still inclined. My take remains the same, that like, I think you're really limiting your chance to win the main event if you're rolling out Buffalo QB, Dallas running back, Las Vegas wide receiver, Dallas tight end, like Buffalo DST. So like that optimal is going to be around like 136 total points. And I just think there's probably too much chance for a running back, a DST, or a tight end, specifically DST or running back, to kind of separate a little bit from that score, which that's just my hunch.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm more inclined to, as someone who has a couple of Dallas tight ends, I think I'm playing my Dallas tight end. I'm throwing him in there.
Yeah.
And going from there. And I think I'm going to play 1 or 2 Las Vegas wide receivers as well, because I think those have the best chance of being, like you said, a top 2 or 3 score in the position. Whereas quarterback, I do think there are people that can surpass that number. And then it's just like a different place to get weird. Because if you have the Buffalo quarterback, you're playing the Buffalo quarterback. I would say like 90% of the people who have it, right? So I think that like you're really creating some leverage for yourself if you can find like we said, it was Baltimore, Philadelphia, whoever can surpass that 30 point. All of a sudden now you're like lapping them.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how people play their Buffalo quarterback, because I also assume most people who have Buffalo quarterback, like me, I have that stack, and I generally just roll out the Buffalo wide receiver stack as well. This week, I'm not going to use Buffalo wide receiver, and that's why I went to the market and grabbed Las Vegas wide receiver to basically lock in that stack. I think the interesting thing, if we're looking to kind of just game environments for this weekend, Tampa Bay, Indianapolis is by far the best game environment. That over is at 53 right now, and there's not a lot close to it. Minnesota, San Francisco, 49.5 over under, Chargers, Broncos, 48.5 over under. But that's by far the best game environment. So I do think you take stabs on Indianapolis running back, Tampa Bay tight end, maybe even Tampa Bay wide receiver, because I do think those position groups could outscore, the Thursday guys in some scenarios.
What about what would you do with the Tampa Bay quarterback?
Tampa Bay quarterback, what I would probably do? I would probably only run it as I wouldn't want to do it as a one-off. I don't think.
Right.
I think I'd play like Dallas tight end and then do Tampa Bay QB, Tampa Bay wide receiver, or say I'm using Las Vegas wide receiver and do Tampa Bay QB, Tampa Bay tight end, and just be like, if Tom goes off and Gronk and OJ Howard score 3 TDs or something, like you could definitely capture the points in that game in a sneaky way that helps you lap the Thursday scores. I don't think I'd want to use it as a one-off, because then you're not getting the benefit. It's like, what scenarios is Tampa Bay quarterback in the optimal, but one of the other position groups didn't come along for the ride?
Right. No, that makes sense. Because I was thinking the only way that I would use the Tampa Bay quarterback is if you are doing like a full stack of that. So if you think both the Tampa Bay quarterback, the Tampa Bay wide receivers, and like the Indianapolis running back. But you're right. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
Tea time mentioning too, another game that I didn't mention that looks solid would be Packers Rams. It has an over under of 47, so it's not too far behind there. And looking at projections, I think I'm definitely going to roll out a Chargers stack in one of mine, because I think that has pretty nice upside. LA wide receiver, the top 3 wide receivers I'm seeing right now are Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, LA, and then Green Bay is just right underneath there. So I do think that game's viable, and I'm kind of tempted to roll out a Green Bay stack, but the Green Bay quarterback just doesn't project quite as well compared to, Philadelphia quarterback. Even Seattle quarterback is projecting a little better than Green Bay right now.
Well, I mean, the Rams defense is still pretty solid, right? And then my biggest thing with Rodgers and the Green Bay quarterback is that, like, last week was the nuts, right? Like, that's the only way he scored. Like, where you have other outs with the Ravens quarterback, the Eagles quarterback, with like the rushing upside. And with Rodgers, you need him to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like, that's the only way you're going to get that score.
Yeah,
it's a little bit harder.
And that is the thing too. I mean, I use these, and I think I mentioned it last week too. I use these projections as kind of a roadmap. When you look at these winning scores, like I said, Las Vegas wide receivers outshot their projection by I think it was like 13 or 14 points. So we are looking for the outlier scores. I think it just is helpful to make sure you're not getting too far off the board with it. But then like using that correlation as a tiebreaker, I think makes a ton of sense. And I think Green Bay definitely falls in that category. But my version of Green Bay this week, I think, could be that Chargers stack. And then the question is, would I roll out the kind of the full game stack with Chargers QB wide receiver with Denver running back coming back? Because they project decently.
Wow. I mean, the Chargers have just been getting mowed down by opposing running backs too. Because again, if you own the Cowboys running back, I'm like, is the Broncos, are they really going to outscore the Chargers running back? Did I go black again?
No, I switched my screen share. If you want to pull up these are some the projections that we've been talking about.
Let me see. Here we go.
And the only thing that's not updated on this is the Dallas running back. So Dallas running back would be at the top of this once we add those 7 points here. So the reason the bold ones are just the cards that I own. But this does include the Thursday scores, and then everything else is projections. And then just that number on the right, just looking at what an optimal would be. So the true optimal now is going to be around 137 points. And you see it features a healthy dose of Thursday players. And it will be a full Thursday optimal once we get Dallas updated there.
Right. What I don't know if you talked about this while my internet was terrible, but like with the Bills defense getting 14, like it's a pretty high score for a defense, but if any defense gets like a pick six, that it's probably surpassing 14. Is there any spot that you were looking at that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, every week New England DST
Mm,
is in play. Kind of looking at some of the more gross games, I think that Carolina Miami game could have a decent amount of defensive scoring there. That one
hmm
looked pretty good to me. The Steelers versus the Bengals, like a team like the Bengals that continues to just throw versus a pretty good defense, that one has some appeal to me. Um,
I like that.
Baltimore, I think, as well versus Cleveland. Cleveland's been pretty turnover prone. I guess the worry is they just run so much that it doesn't get there. But yeah, there's definitely not like a dominant defensive play this week, which makes it interesting.
Mm, I like that. I also see in Tea Time's comment right here, which it's like how far we've come right here. Where Kamara you'd think is like a top three. That Saints card is like a top three play every week, right? And now after last night, holy shit!
Yeah. And Peter mentioning Houston DST in the marketplace, that one did look good to me. Definitely one of the best marketplace values. So when I pulled this earlier, they were $11. And
Wow.
again, when you're trying to think of, how can I give myself a chance to win on a budget? I mean, scooping up these defenses for cheap is the way to go, because Buffalo defense, $127 right now, low ass. Dallas defense, $61. Then you go right down. I mean, even if you want to bank points with Detroit and Chicago, which I'm not necessarily excited to do, but $16, $20. But Houston D right there, $11.89. And honestly, it's kind of gross, but Atlanta defense is also they're $13. And I don't
Wow.
think that's the worst play versus the Jags.
No way. I mean, again, you're just looking for all it takes is one touchdown and you're scooping by everybody. So that's a really good spot.
Yeah,
That's a really good spot.
I'm trying to see the other kind of marketplace deals. We mentioned Chicago tight end looks good if you are trying to bank some points, $32 in the marketplace. Cleveland
That's
tight
probably
end.
a solid misfit of Island Toys or whatever the name of that is.
Yeah.
That's probably a good play for that. Assuming that most people are going to throw Dallas into their main event, that's a solid tight end score there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, on the wide receivers, I hadn't seen the Vegas wide receivers just jumps out to me a bunch. Like, say if you were going to try to buy Tampa Bay wide receiver, right now they have a good matchup. They're a card that you're going to be excited to use down the stretch. You're paying, $135 for that. So to bank those points with Las Vegas, and I think you could end up using Las Vegas wide receiver a little bit more going forward. I feel like they're really starting to click with that offense.
Yeah, they really are. They're in, and I mean, like with the announcement of with the new playoff thing, right? With OTM's big announcement, yeah, or
Yeah.
TOC's big announcement. Like, I wonder. I mean, if a team like the Raiders all of a sudden sneaks into the playoffs, and now you have these cards that you're going to be able to use a little bit more frequently, I think that's just something to pay attention to.
Yeah, and they haven't fully announced the exact settings, except that it was going to be an
Hmm.
expanding starting lineup, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be really interesting too, depending on how it works. Normally in these, just in general, like playoff contests, you see, you know, even chalkier, more common constructions just because there's less options. And so I do think people will be very excited to, have their Tampa Bay stuff, and getting a little funky with teams that could make noise in the playoffs will probably be a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to get a little feedback from the chat too. I was curious with three games this week on the Thursday, if people were out there like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, scooping stuff from the marketplace with the intention of flipping today, right? Like when you see it's like the Dallas tight end, for example. I don't think that was over $100 before Thursday, or the Raiders wide receiver took a big jump. I was curious because I know we're mostly focusing on just trying to get to Miami, so we're not really selling too much stuff. But I would imagine it was pretty profitable in the marketplace if you were active on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this, and even the OTM guys have been talking about it for a while, that there was going to be opportunities with Thursday stuff. And I still think, from like if you are trying to play the marketplace dynamics, I do think
Mhm.
defense and tight end is definitely the way to go because you see the most randomness in scoring there, and they're generally cheap, especially bad teams. Like sure, Chicago and Detroit, they didn't end up getting that touchdown, but if one of those gets a touchdown, you're probably able to buy that for $15 and sell it for 100. I mean, so
Right. Wait,
I think that's always
what
a good
ended up,
strategy.
if you still have that, what ended up being the tight end score for Detroit? Because
De-
Hawkinson fell in the end zone, right?
Detroit was 9.5. Yeah.
So that's all he did was fall into the end zone.
Yeah. The thing is we're also, in general conditioned with DraftKings and stuff to PPR scoring. And so
I know, I know.
the standard stuff is so touchdown heavy.
Right, right. Tea Time says the marketplace reactions for this platform is too quick. I like it though. That means people are paying attention. I like it.
I mean, that is part of the appeal. I haven't been super active from a selling perspective just because I end up, as you can see, I like having all my options.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that yet, but I do think if you had the time or the inclination to do that, there's some definite things you could exploit there.
Well, one little fun behind the scenes bit on Wednesday when they said we have a big announcement coming at noon. You and I were messaging, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to do a special Thanksgiving Day slate. So I went out into the marketplace and scooped a bunch of shit for people who were playing that day. So it was fun to have, like, we had an extra Las Vegas wide receiver. We had I forget what the other one that I picked up. Maybe it was Chicago tight end. But felt like a real dum dum when that was not the announcement.
Yeah. Well, what did you end up buying?
I think I'm not going to share screen for fear of everything
Yeah.
catching fire on my computer. But let me take a look. We took down a little bit of money last week. I think I finished like 18th or something like that. And
Yeah.
so it was like $250 or whatever it was. So we went out and went buying. Um, And then I scooped a couple of those cards. I guess we should talk about that promotion right now too, the Black Friday that they're doing. So if you scoop 4 moments, you were given 2 moments as well. So get out there if that's something. If you're going shopping right now,
Well,
it's
in
not a bad idea.
the best part of the promotion in my estimation is that every card you purchase gets you an entry onto the wheel for the Miami trip. So that
Which
would
we love.
be 4. So if you buy 4 TOC cards, getting 4 more spots on that wheel. So, one of the only other ways to get Miami other than, winning first place in one of these weeks would be through
Right.
that giveaway. So if you are trying to round out some stuff, obviously the downside is you don't know what you're going to get. You might have your
Mm-hmm.
cards duped. You might get cards that aren't as attractive, but if you're a gambling type, it is definitely the way to go.
It's a good time, which I definitely did. And I will say, I bought 4. I got the Green Bay #1 cereal for the
Really?
defense. Yeah, and then the Patriots #3 wide receiver cereal. So who knows? Who knows if those will be usable? But
Do you know what my by far the biggest leak in my TOC game is I like never check the cereals when I go
dude,
to when I go to put my stuff into lineups. I'm like, I need to start doing that.
well, you know why I'm going to start doing it is because this past week I was in second place through after the 1 o'clock games and was
Yeah.
in good shape. And I was like, oh, let's see what I'm trailing by. And I was duped, but my cereal count was lower or was higher. So there, I had no shot at surpassing first place.
The one thing that is nice though, like looking at, some of my the dupes is they do put them in order of
Hmm.
their from lowest to highest. So I'm generally always just clicking, the first one in mine. So getting
Yeah,
the lower one in there. But it is funny. I never think of it until I
yeah.
see the cumulative tally on the leaderboard.
um, so to go back, I scooped a Las Vegas wide receiver, a Las Vegas running back.
You scooped Las
And
Vegas wide receiver before yesterday?
I think so. Oh no, nope. I'm sorry, that was today. So the Las Vegas running back, and then I already had a Las Vegas wide receiver too, so now I have 2 of them.
Nice.
The Detroit running back, which was just super solid. And then after a conversation we had about, hey, is Trevor Siemian really gonna like play this entire game? What if Taysom Hill gets in there and runs a couple in? So scooped the New Orleans quarterback. So Mostly whiffs. Mostly whiffs.
Yeah. I still think, I mean, we're running out of hope for Trey Lance to play this
Mm-hmm.
year, but I do think those kind of guys, if you're looking for just super kind of high upside stuff, I mean, San Francisco QB, New Orleans QB are really cheap, and their projection would just change massively. You know, they'd
Right.
go from like mid to bottom tier to like right in the Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia QB projection, like pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Um,
All right. Should we do a little building?
yeah, let's do it. I can share a tab here.
Yeah. I'm gonna see. I might be able to share a screen as well, and then continue doing it from my phone when it's my turn. So let's see.
Yeah.
Let's get that up there. All right.
So the thing that, the lineup I've been messing with for kind of my for my top lineup is rolling out the Buffalo QB and then my recently purchased Las Vegas wide receiver, and then basically not using any of my other Thursday card, just kind of banking in these really high points. And then the one I've been looking at, the correlation I kind of liked was obviously Indianapolis running back, and then correlating that with Tampa Bay tight end.
Ooh,
and
I like that.
Playing that game where it's like, we know that game has a high over under. We obviously know Colts running back and Tampa Bay tight end are good position groups, and people are going to be excited to play Tampa Bay QB, Tampa Bay wide receiver. What if it is the tight end position group that kind of feasts in the red zone, which is a perfectly viable scenario, and kind of playing that. And then just picking whatever for defense. Honestly, probably toss in like New England DST in here, but I do really feel like defense is so wide open that a lot of these could be justifiable.
Yeah, I think so too. The defense is really all over the map. But this, I mean, I like this lineup a lot because I do think we're at the point now where if you have Jonathan Taylor or the Colts running back, you're playing that every time in the main event. So I don't know how unique that's going to be, but I like having the ceiling of that card in there with the secured points, and then just hope, and with the correlation with the Bucs tight end, you just hope that game pops and that's at least bringing back some money.
Yeah. The problem is we're now in that territory where I have some good cards, but I don't have like duplicates of any of my best cards, and I don't have any jokers. So I now am in that, the awful spot of just being like, I hope I mix and match this right. Like last week I had my New England defense, but I didn't get it. I didn't have it in the lineup with my Colts running back. And so it's just like that puts me in the top 20 of the main event if I have that in the right combo.
Well, let me just say, just because you have the New England defense doesn't guarantee you're going to get cash. So,
yeah,
as someone who dropped, I don't know, $500 on New England defense last week.
That's right. Let's see. Do you want to try to share your screen?
Yeah, let's see if everything blows up when I try this. Let's give it a go. There we go. I can already feel the computer slowing down.
Wait, how are you doing? Oh, because you're on your phone, but you're gonna log in.
Yeah, so I'm still on my computer. That way I can show so I could still like share your screen and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's looking like that's still your screen, right? That's being shared.
Yeah, that's mine. I can drop it off.
Yeah, let's try this one more time. This is good. I'm like 2 for 2 now. Last week I was trying to play cards that weren't even in my in my wallet.
Yeah.
This week I can't. What? All right. I don't know if it's happening here. All right. What I will do though is I'll just talk through what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. So I'm in a situation where I have 2 Las Vegas wide receivers and the Joker wide receiver. And there's part of me, in the same way that I handled the Patriots last week, where I was like, you know what? I'm just putting those in all 3 lineups. I'm tempted to do that again this week. But the first thing I'm going to do is plug in the Las Vegas wide receiver. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, who are your quarterbacks? Because
So
that,
yeah, let's start with quarterback. With quarterback, we've got some Baltimore, we've got Cincinnati, we have Dallas, which was looking good until that last Josh Allen touchdown. We have Aaron Rodgers, we have Green Bay, we have the
yeah,
Los Angeles Rams, and then we have the Eagles. And actually, I'm sorry, we have Tampa Bay as well. So we get a little bit of everything at quarterback.
yeah. So I'm probably going to I personally would probably diversify that last Joker spot to complete
Yeah.
either my Los Angeles or Tampa Bay quarterback stack.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's build the one with the Raiders first though, because
Yeah.
I'm just curious of talking through that.
So you'll use Raiders wide receiver, and then who would you use at quarterback here?
I
Baltimore QB would probably be a good one. They project best of all the quarterbacks who have yet to play yet.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, because I Stafford seems to have cooled off a little bit, and with the Woods injury too, I'm kind of not super excited as that being my highest upside play. And then for tight end, I'm just going to put in like I could correlate this with the Baltimore tight end, but I with having a Dallas tight end, I feel like that's just the plug and play there.
Yeah, I definitely would use that in kind of your most optimal or best lineup.
And so for defense too, I like we talked about. I now own 3 New England Patriots, so it feels like we're going to throw one of those in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Tea time in the chat asking Dallas QB with Raiders wide receiver viable. I think it's viable, but I do think you're going to probably end up giving up, 6 to 7 points. Not obviously
yeah,
to Buffalo QB teams. And then I would expect a couple other quarterbacks. I don't know, three or four to probably outscore Dallas QB. So
yeah,
it depends on your options. If you have other options, like if you had, like I'm in the boat where I have, Philadelphia, I have Chargers, like I'm rolling those out over my
hmm
Dallas QB in the main. Like I think I'll use my Dallas QB maybe in the side hustle.
that's
Um,
that's what I'm planning on doing.
I just think the upside's a little capped there. And I'm again, it all depends on your goals, right? Like you probably can raise your floor and have a better
You,
chance to cash, but you're lowering your first place chance equity.
I mean, if you're throwing out Dallas quarterback and Raiders wide receiver, you got a real good shot at cashing. I think in the main event, but I
Yeah.
just don't. I think it makes it. You need to hit everything else perfectly and hope somebody else didn't have that combo with the Buffalo quarterback. So it's just or going against the Buffalo quarterback. Sorry. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. So now with New England in the defense spot, so we got the Baltimore quarterback, the Las
Yeah.
Vegas wide receiver, the Dallas tight end,
Yep.
and the New England defense. We're looking at we've got Carolina, we've got the Bengals, we've got the
Yeah.
Browns, the Cowboys if we wanted to secure some points. Um,
For defense.
Minnesota. I'm sorry, no, this is running back. Sorry,
Oh, running back. You said you had Cleveland.
Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah. At tea time, this is the exact thing he says. Do these 3 games determine the weekend though? Like I'll run the tandem just to cash. And we talked about this the past few weeks. It all depends on your goals. My goal is not to
Totally.
cash. My goal is to get first place. That's my goal every week. If your goal
hmm
is to cash, definitely lock up those points. It raises your floor a ton, but you probably remove your first place equity unless you just hit the absolute nuts across all those spots. So if your goal is
Yeah.
to cash, by all means.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because again, you're right. If you roll out the Dallas quarterback and the Las Vegas wide receiver, you've eliminated to like 40% of the steps in order to cash, and so it makes sense to lock those in.
I think
But yeah,
Cleveland running
yeah,
back's a great play this week again. And it sounds like was Chubb activated? Did I see that? Is he going to be back?
I think so. I thought I
Or
saw that he
sorry,
was
not
good to go.
Chubb,
The
Hunt.
Hunt, right?
Yeah.
I think so. And then and it's funny, like when I think I roll out like a similar lineup, right? Because I have 2 Dallas tight ends and 2 Las Vegas wide receivers. So I think I just do that again, and then this time do it with the Philadelphia quarterback or the Green Bay quarterback. I could do as well, but I probably lean Philadelphia for the upside.
Yeah. I think Hertz has, we saw the upside last week too,
hmm
with the rushing, but man, he really does have massive upside in this spot.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
he, it's kind of the same thing where when you go with a Tampa Bay, a Chargers, a Green Bay, they're, pocket passers that aren't going to get you much via rushing, but they could be in the best game environments. Whereas Baltimore QB, Philadelphia QB, either of those guys could have a 100-yard rushing game and kind of just get there almost purely on their own. And that's what actually makes it nice, where if you are using like a one-off Las Vegas wide receiver and you're not, hoping that the correlation in the game environment gets you there, that's the perfect spot to pair it with one of those running QBs. Whereas I'm pretty hesitant to roll out a Tampa Bay, a Chargers QB, whatever, without some kind of stack, because they really need to throw 4 to 5 touchdowns in that scenario.
Right. It's the same way you kind of like similar to DraftKings, right? Where you're very rarely playing like a naked Brady, right? But you can get away with that with a Hurts or with a Jackson because of the upside they have with their legs.
Yeah.
Ooh, we the people saying the shootout no one is talking about is San Francisco and Minnesota. Minnesota does love a shootout, but San Francisco is the one that makes me nervous about it.
Yeah. I like San Francisco RB and Minnesota running back. The kind of running back tier here is just like it's so wide open. I do really feel like if you were rolling out, super chalky stuff or points already in the bank, like get weird with San Francisco running back, Minnesota running back, even like Houston running back, like projects decently this week. Like, you can really get weird here because just no one's separating in the same way some of the passing games do.
Right. I like that because I was just going to bring that up for like one more talking point. I know we talked about it a little bit, but if you have the Dallas running back, is that another thing? You're just like, I'll throw it in the side hustle and see if it gets there.
Yeah. Well, now that it's up to,
20,
now
right?
that
20 points.
No, it's 23. So yeah, that is still, I think you could use that in one of your main events. If you had built a higher stack around it, I do think that's viable. And, going back to we the people on that take, like just kind of like looking at projections and stuff. So both San Francisco running back and Minnesota wide receiver look pretty good to me. I'm not excited to use either of those quarterbacks. So that's another scenario where like a Baltimore QB with San Francisco running back, Minnesota wide receiver looks like a pretty smart construction.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. San Francisco wide receiver is just, they look okay. They just don't project quite as well. And, so much of their offense does funnel through Kittle, does funnel through the running game. So I kind of have a hard time seeing like the 35 plus point upside from the San Francisco wide receivers. But Debo has been getting it done. Ayuk is on the come up. I get it. I just think there's a little bit more kind of upside cap there.
Yeah. And Peter brings up a good point too. He says running backs to the side hustle need to be the nuts. Easy for a wide receiver and QB to outscore that 23 points. That's a good point too. I just was more like talking through are you putting them in the main if you have it, or are you rolling out other options being like, I think this is a good score, but I don't think this is going to be like the nut score,
If I had Dallas running back, I'd be perfectly comfortable running it out as one of my 3 main events. And just knowing that I could get unique elsewhere.
It's a good point. Especially because like really the top of the leaderboard, if you don't have Josh Allen, it's not going to take much to be like just any other quarterback is going to be unique.
Yeah, like, and then I can read off a few. So obviously last week was just the monster explosion, 54 points from Colts, but then in week 10, the top team had a 21.5, second place had a 29.9. I'm just clicking through some of these other weeks, a 19.8 in second, a 17.5 in fourth. So unless there is the kind of Colts, explosion type thing, like you can get away with being within that 20 to 25 point band, depending on the week.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. I'm learning that this show is for me to build lineups. I appreciate talking through what I'm going to do with my guys.
It's the same for me too, because it's nice to kind of talk things out and, initially even having kind of the thinking through the new Dallas information there with that extra 7 points. That's huge. That really changes things.
I got to say, like having 3 games yesterday was so fun to think through. Like as I saw the Dallas, like that Schultz touchdown late in the fourth, I was like, that completely changes the outlook. Like those Dallas tight ends weren't really playable. Like they scored, but they weren't going to do anything. You get a second touchdown like that, it's like, holy shit. Same thing. Everybody's probably thinking they were locking in Dak, and then that last Buffalo touchdown. It's just having all this information on Thursday makes it a lot more fun to sift through.
Yeah, the 3 games is pretty fun. It's meaty, and I'm just glad that there wasn't like the New England DST one it's a blast if you have it.
Yeah.
It is kind of demoralizing if you don't.
It's a blast if
this
you blast off in the marketplace for them.
Mike was telling me after last week, he's like, I know I should buy this, but I'm gonna buy it. And I was like, all right, Mike, whatever you got to do.
Once I was able to make a Top Shot deal for the third one, I was like, all right, I can justify this a little bit better.
Yeah, you've been wheeling and dealing cross chain deals here.
Listen, I shout out Mihal in the Team Hold Discord, who was like, I don't like football, so it's time to move off these, which I thought was smart. I thought that was smart.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So take advantage of some of those deals in the marketplace. I'm curious if anyone's been buying those Raiders ones. I was tempted to even buy a second one, but I kind of fell in love with a couple other stacks I have, so I don't think I'm going to force it on that. But I do really think Las Vegas wide receiver is a great buy at their price.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good spot. And then don't forget too, like you have until Sunday, I believe, to if you scoop four cards, which is like $200, right? You're going to get 2 free ones. So it's basically a free $100 worth of cards. And I think they even mentioned there's a handful of jokers left in there as well. So go
Man,
nuts.
I'm still jealous of all you Joker bros.
Yeah, but again, it's really cool. But then you then start, like, I'm already thinking about it. Like, do I use the Raiders as just throw the Raiders in 3 of my main lineups? Just like take those points and go.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's tough. There's lots of decisions to be made, and that's the thing. It's like, having a smaller pool, kind of simplifies your decision making. And the bigger your pool is, it's nice to have those options, but the more agonizing it is to make the best possible decisions.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, Pete. Thanks for steering the ship as things got a little wild over here with my internet. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Be back. We'll be back next Friday. Next Friday we'll be over on Pete's channel. If you're not subscribing, I mean, anybody that's here is subscribed to Pete's channel. But if you're not, we'll check the show notes. And good luck this weekend. I hope everybody's had a nice holiday, and we'll see you around.
See you guys.